You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, Habitat for Humanity prepares a fortified home for Joplin.
Multiple storm reports after overnight thunderstorms, and the rain is far from over. We'll detail road closures, a campground evacuation, and a water rescue from the Skywatch weather center.
And experts blame another Omicron variant on 1 in 3 new COVID cases. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. As the legislative session draws to an end, Missouri has yet to redraw its district maps. The legislature now has less than 2 weeks left and still has not come to a decision. In fact, lawmakers are moving backwards on the issue because it's moved back into committee discussion. On Wednesday, Representative Dan Schall proposed a new map similar to what passed before. Schall hopes this map will ease concerns from lawmakers.
With input from several to try to make sure it could survive the Senate. We are open to some adjustments to this. There are still some issues with the map.
The map must be passed by Friday of next week, which is when the session ends. The state faces multiple federal and state lawsuits over the delays. If a redistricting map is not agreed upon in time, it could end up in the hands of the courts. Kansas lawmakers have good news for some residents. Governor Laura Kelly on Wednesday signed a bill allowing people 65 years old and older or disabled veterans to get a property tax refund of up to $2,500. as long as they make less than $75,000. Disabled veterans are also eligible for income tax exemptions, and teachers can now receive tax credits for buying classroom supplies. Well, if this week has served as any indication, springtime is severe weather season, and how a building is constructed can go a long way keeping safe when severe weather strikes. And now the Joplin area Habitat for Humanity is building a home to the fortified standard set by the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. The home features walls with 6 inches of concrete that can withstand winds up to 130 miles per hour.
We look to involve this in our future and add it to another component for a safe, will-built house to be even better for a homeowner who's coming in from a situation and from a low-income situation that's never had a house like this. And not only is it built well and safe, but it's built even extra strong.
Habitat officials say this is the first home in Missouri to meet the fortified standard. Well, the shirt Diego Maradona wore against England at the 1986 World Cup, synonymous with his brilliance at that tournament in Mexico, sold for almost $9.3 million in an online auction. Wow. Smashing the record for an item of sports memorabilia. The blue jersey sold to an anonymous buyer, that's according to Sotheby's. It had previously been in the possession of former England midfielder Steve Hodge, who exchanged shirts with Maradona after Argentina's 2-1 quarterfinal victory. This is the jersey Maradona wore during the infamous Hand of God goal.
Scored with a little of the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. No, it was a handball. The referee missed it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why it's known as the hand of God. It's a little bit like our miracle on ice in the fact that they went on. That was a quarterfinal or semifinal game, the hand of God game. It was not the World Cup final. Okay, Tanya, we got a new one. Now we're going to roll Missouri 126. Missouri 126. Of course, this is it runs out of Barton County and then into Crawford County. Eventually turns into 4th Street in Pittsburgh. But 126 in Barton County is now closed. Let me throw on the storm reports here. That one's actually too new to even turn up in our storm reports. That's why I wanted to go ahead and jump on it right now. Additional storm reports. Let's start up in the north, and that's where we're going to start with Highway K in Barton County, US 160. US 160, begin that in Crawford County up by Frontenac. That stretches to Lamar. We've got that closed, and then when you get on the east side of Lamar up in Dade County, It's closed as well. Mentioned the water rescue. That also took place in Dade County. That was near East Dade 132 and South Dade 143. Now, if we back these storm reports up, because what we're looking at now, this is just in the past 3 hours alone. If we go back for a 12-hour times period, that's a look at the multitude of them, including down at the very bottom of your screen in Berry County, where park managers had to evacuate the campground at Roaring River State Park due to the flooding. And that's why it's no surprise that as we sit right now, we've got flood warnings and watches abound. Remember, everybody needs to check your Department of Transportation page, because as I talked about 126, 160, we also have Highway 97 is closed, and new one coming out of, we are rolling this out of Lawrence County. We now have Highway 37 that has been closed, northbound and southbound lanes of Highway 37 in Jasper County. Of course, you can find that exit right off of 44. So anywhere you go right now, I need everybody on their toes and to plan accordingly, because you know, sometimes we talk about county roads, country roads, things of that nature. We're talking about United States highways, state highways. Yeah, this is the real deal here today when we start talking about 160, 126, 97, and 37. Flash flood warnings ranging just east of our highlighted counties through Springfield. And as we kind of reset the national picture, we are the national taka as far as what's going on. The tornadic activity did stay down to our south, just east of Oklahoma City overnight. They did absorb some damage, no reports of any injuries or casualties. Here's where we sit temperature-wise, about 54 to 60 degrees. And while we're getting a little bit of a break in the central portion of the four states, know that we're far from over. And question's going to be, of course, throughout the day, how much rain did we get? Well, check this out. Well, we're talking about Crawford and Barton and Jasper counties, where you see 6 to 8 inches of rain in a 48-hour time span. Also, too, something that Tanya and I were mentioning, with Mother's Day weekend coming up, you may be tempted to say, well, the temperatures are going to be up in the 80s. Wouldn't it be nice to get out, maybe get by a body of water? Well, if you do, you make sure it's a lake. Don't be getting near any rivers or creeks, the way these things are going to run. They're going to run, and they're going to run fast all the way into next week. Here's what Future Track has in store. And even though we get intermittent breaks for the afternoon, the rain sticks around somewhere in the four states all the way from Thursday night into Friday morning. Then we can all take a deep breath and get ready for a very warm Mother's Day weekend, up into the 80s, both Saturday and Sunday, perhaps even feeling a little bit muggy with all that moisture needing to go somewhere. Coming up next on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, it's Thursday, so we've got Chef Anthony Fisher from Pittsburgh High School right here to help us celebrate Cinco de Mayo in his own unique, delicious way. And later, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame welcoming the 2022 class. We'll find out if one of your favorite artists may have made it into the hall as you're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. It is Cinco de Mayo, and earlier this morning, Chef Anthony Fisher from Pittsburgh High School showed us how to make 3 different pico de gallos using like tomatoes or corn or pineapple.
Yes.
Yes.
So now we're going to do the street tacos. So I have onions, peppers, chicken, garlic, serrano peppers, and jalapenos.
Okay.
And we're going to put this, and this is my personal pork marinade.
Pork marinade. What do you have in your marinade?
It's citrus juices, orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime, habaneros, serrano peppers. It's all just kind of mixed in together. And we're going to start our chicken cooking for our tacos.
Okay.
So we're just going to get that in here. We've got it on some heat. We want to get this all to cook down really nicely. And it's going to be ready to go for our tacos here in a few minutes, but we're going to add a few other options to it.
Okay.
So
we're doing chicken tacos and pork tacos.
Yes.
Okay.
And the idea behind this is to show you that you can take 2 base portions of the tacos, 2 proteins, very similar to each other, but change the entire taco with the pico that you choose to use.
Okay.
So you can develop a lot of flavors, you can build up a lot of opportunities just by changing a little bit of things. Now on the pico, when you make it, if you don't like tomatoes, don't use tomatoes. Use corn, use pineapple, use apples, pears, grapes. mangoes, whatever you like. The base ingredients all stay the same. So you still have onions, you still have your jalapenos, still have your cumin, your salt, and if you like the ground black pepper, put it in.
I thought that was a nice touch.
And just change the tomatoes for something else to make life really kind of adventurous. So I have all of this going. I'm
Or
going to add
make two, so you can have options.
I usually do 2 or 3 just to make sure I have options. I'm going to add just a little bit of tequila into my chicken.
Okay, so what kind of tequila is this?
This is Ghost Tequila. It's a spicy white clear tequila
Okay.
that my friend Kevin over at Parrot Head told me to
Blanco
try.
spicy. Okay.
It's good.
All right.
So, and it adds a nice little variation to your chicken to give it a little depth.
I'd have to
So-
say I've never cooked with tequila, so this is exciting. You talk
It's-
about cooking with wine
And whiskey and brandy
yep.
but tequila is just one of those ones you don't really get to use very often. So I like to use it when I do Cinco de Mayo because
making our adult version.
yes, and it rolls in really nicely. So we have all this cooking together. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit more. Want to make sure that that gets done cooking.
Yes.
But here I have my pork, and I marinated my pork in orange juice, tequila, lemon juice, lime juice, grapefruit juice, and pineapples. So I just ran them all through my juicer and put it all into a pan and let it sit overnight. I added some whole cloves to it, some garlic to it, some peppercorns to it, just to kind of give it a little bit of body.
Okay.
And then I saved my marinade because I can cook with my marinade and other things to help combine my flavors over to something else.
So was this already pre-smoked or did you?
It wasn't smoked at all.
Smoked. Okay.
It wasn't smoked at all. That was roasted in the oven.
That's roasted in the oven.
That's
okay.
roasted in the oven, but
So you marinated it, then roasted it.
exactly.
Okay.
But the tequila and the citrus juices give it this nice little essence of smokiness
It does.
that you don't get unless you put it in the smoker, because not everybody has a smoker at home.
Now that you mentioned the citrus and stuff, those flavors are definitely coming out.
Oh yes, and this is all real simple stuff to do that you can throw together for Cinco de Mayo. I mean, you can go get some chicken and some onions and some peppers, and you only need like a little shot bottle, if not of your favorite tequila, to put in there just to kind of give it a little bit more to it. But make sure you throw some citrus juices in here to activate everything.
So if you just have like a bottle of Jose, you could use that too.
You can use Jose.
Yeah.
You can use anything that you want. And I like using it for this because it, like I said, it gives, with the conjunction of citrus juices, it gives a nice flavor.
Would it be better to cook with like a white tequila compared to a dark yellow one?
I have not found a difference in the two. When you're cooking with it, it's more of the preference to the user. Whatever you would, like I always say, if you're going to use an alcohol when you cook, if you won't drink it, don't cook with it. So use something that you would drink, because the flavors of what you're used to and what you like become familiar to your palate as you're eating
Very
it.
true, very true.
So you can pick it up. And you can braise chicken in this style of a marinade several hours in the oven. Make sure you put a nice tight lid over the top of it and then shred it, and it comes out really nice.
Oh, nice.
But I like to slice mine because it helps to build your taco a little bit better.
Yeah.
You can control how much is going into it. So we're gonna let this cook down a little bit more, but we're gonna talk about the simplicity of our pico over here. And I brought limes to go on top because I like to add a little bit of citrus right at the very end of it. It makes for a nice little addition. I like the acid in my tacos. Without it, it's kind of weak to me. So everybody's a little bit different, but that's why most Mexican restaurants, when you go, serve a little lime wedge with your tacos.
There you go.
So
And while we let that finish up cooking, let's go ahead and go to break, and then we'll come back and start
putting
putting
everything
everything
together.
together. I'd say plate it, but we're not using plates.
Nope,
Not when you have street tacos.
that's right.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I was just, not gonna lie, I tried a little piece of chicken out of there, and I was like, wow, that has some heat to it. And let's talk about again what you put in there to give it the heat.
I have serrano peppers in here, garlic, pickled jalapenos, and then I have onions and peppers along with the chicken and our ghost tequila from our friends in town.
Yeah, so the ghost tequila actually has been, like, they infuse ghost peppers into it. And Wow, yeah, you can tell. That's
It
pretty
gives
cool.
a little bit of body and a little bit of flavor, a little bit of heat, but nothing that's too overpowering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up my tacos. Because we did 3 different salsas, I'm going to do 3 tacos.
Make 3 chicken and then 3 pork? Or?
Correct. And I'm going to lay these in here.
Okay.
And we're going to do 1 of each with very simple toppings. I'm only adding lettuce to the top.
Okay.
So that you can see, and the pico shines through on each one of them.
Okay. So you're picking and choosing just the chicken, or are you going to go ahead and use the
I'm going to use
peppers
a little
too?
bit of onions and peppers, but I wanted to make sure I had plenty of chicken in the bottom.
Okay.
So don't want to lose those because those have a lot of flavor in themselves.
Okay. I mean, and then we got the peppers. The jalapenos and the serranos.
Yep, they're going to add a little bit of body inside there to kind of give you a little bit more depth.
I feel like we're wasting a lot of juice in the pan.
Well, trust me, the good part of the juice is out.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
trying just that little piece of chicken, it was very, very moist, very juicy.
So I'm just going to lay my pork right down on the bottom of my taco.
And again, this is pork that you roasted after it was marinated in like a
Correct.
citrus marinade.
Correct. And we're going to keep this really simple, just a little bit of lettuce on top
Okay.
of each one.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and salsify your favorites?
How pretty is that?
I know, isn't that gorgeous?
These stands are pretty cool too.
Oh, yeah. Make sure they stand up upright. Serve them right on the table. And I will
Yeah,
do
whenever
one
we
with
do
the
tacos
pineapple.
at our house, I always have to have the kids hold the taco while I help them build it.
Oh, yes. What kind of shell do you like on your tacos?
I'm a soft shell fan. Flour soft shell.
Good.
Love them, love them.
I kind of like the corn, but depending upon the protein that
Wait
I
a
put
minute,
in.
what are you doing?
Whoops. I put a little too much on there. That's okay.
Okay.
Go ahead and do your corn on the other one. I'm getting carried away. I really like this pineapple salsa.
Yes, you do. That's okay. We can fix it.
That's right. While Tanya tries, I'll make her another one.
I don't know if I can eat all of them. Here you go.
Why, thank you.
Make one more chicken.
So why don't you go ahead and start with the pork there on the end
Okay.
and the traditional pico.
All right. So again, we've got the smoke, or what is not smoked but gives it a smoky flavor almost.
Yes.
Okay. Thumbs up. That's
Isn't
good.
that great?
Oh, yummy.
And then you have the roasted corn.
Okay. Do you make stuff like this for your students in school?
I do make quite a bit of stuff like this for my students to kind of give them an idea for flavors. We talk a lot about flavor, philosophy, and knowledge. Because philosophy and knowledge is like the pico. How do you know something's going to be right unless you try it? So trying the pineapple and the pears and the apples in a pico like that to experiment, to show them that you can change flavors but still get what you want out of it.
Oh, so the purpose of the limes is to
It's just to add a little acidity
so if
right
you
at the
wanted to
very
put
end.
it-
Just drizzle it right on the top as you squeeze it.
I didn't do that on the other ones, but that'll be good. Okay. All right. Let's go for this side.
This is my favorite part, to sit and watch you try all this.
Oh, that was so good.
Isn't that great? So even contrasting just changing the pico on top, you change everything about the taco itself. So, and if you're one of those guys who sits there and collects the Taco Bell packets at home, you can squirt that right on top too. And that's going to change the taco as well.
And
So-
we barely put a dent in what you made here, too.
Correct. And I used 1 chicken breast, and Simon Market has these really nice giant chicken breasts. I mean, this was a huge chicken breast. And I barely used any of it to do this.
Okay, so here's the corn one with the chicken.
Okay.
I really like that chicken.
I think that's going to be the favorite today.
Oh, wow. That's good. What you did there with just the peppers and the tequila in there gave it a kick. Oh
It
my
does.
goodness, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna save that. Of the salsa, of the picos, the tomato one is my favorite, even though I like the pineapple. I like them all, but that's my favorite, so I'm gonna save it for last. Since you made two, you should try one too.
Oh, I'm going to have plenty come class today.
Are you guys making this in class?
We're going to go through some of the pork and talk about the flavors and the salsas a little bit more today because their final is tomorrow. And I have set up the most diabolical final for them. Because at the end of the year, I like to clean out all my refrigerators. So tomorrow, they start with an MRE, and they have to enhance the flavors of the MRE with something and make it different.
Do you give them handicaps?
The MRE is their handicap.
You might explain why we were talking about handicaps, why I bring that up.
Well, during the competition, one of the handicaps that we faced, we had one round had to hold everything with a pair of tongs, which was interesting. I liked that one. And then adding in extra ingredients on the third one. We had to add a pineapple, and then we had a judge who decided that wasn't a big enough handicap for us and made us take another one. But we had fun. And
Yes.
the kids, we all learned something. The students get inspired by it. And I hope you guys who watch this every morning get inspired by trying something new, because it doesn't take much to change the base flavors of what you're working
And
on.
what's interesting is my favorite one with the pork is the tomato based, but my favorite one with the chicken is the pineapple based.
Of course. That little sweet heat goes really well with chicken.
And that
It
one
plays
is
very
like,
nicely.
it was already really spicy, the pineapple one, and just on top of it, adding that to it. Wow, those are really good.
Well, good. I'm
Awesome,
glad you enjoyed.
awesome job. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
You as well. Enjoy your tacos today.
All right. Well, if you want to stick around, we're going to be knocking this piñata off finding out what's inside after the show.
I would, but I have class today.
Oh yes, life of a teacher.
The rain did not stop class. But I love my students.
That's right. Great kids.
Yes,
And,
they are.
Yes, congratulations to all of them for doing so well this year too. And thank you so much for coming on.
course.
Give us a little bit of a teaser what we're doing next week.
I have 2 seniors coming to make their grandmother's apple pie recipe next week. Their last official act as students at Pittsburgh High School will be to join you here to make apple pie.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. That's a celebration in
That is a
itself.
celebration.
We'll be right back.
There's new information on a new variation of Omicron, the spinoff causing more new COVID-19 cases in the United States. Mandy Gaither with the latest numbers and what experts have to say about the new subvariant.
It's another Omicron variant offshoot, a highly contagious spinoff of BA2 gaining steam in the U.S. It caused more than 1 in 3 new COVID-19 cases in the U.S. last week, according to the latest CDC numbers, up from 1 in 4 the week before.
We're set up for another big wave in the summer. I think that's quite possible.
Cases of the variant spinoff are not evenly spread through the U.S. Last week, the CDC estimates it caused around 62% of cases in the region that includes New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, about 40% of cases in the mid-Atlantic states, and more than 36% of cases in the South. It's least common in the Pacific Northwestern states. Researchers believe several Omicron subvariants have a mutation that helps the virus bind more tightly to our cells and hide from the antibodies that try to block the virus from infecting us.
The incubation period, the period of when you become infected with the virus to when you start showing symptoms with these Omicron subvariants is pretty quick. It's around 2 to 4 days.
In a paper published in the medical journal JAMA, top FDA officials say current vaccines could be updated yearly to target specific coronavirus variants going around. They say COVID-19 shots could be administered every year, and decisions will need to be made by this summer on future vaccine composition and who should be eligible for another COVID-19 shot in the fall.
Class of 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted, or announced, I should say, not inducted as of yet. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's country music legend Dolly Parton who's part of it. Rapper Eminem and 1980s new wave band Duran Duran. Other new entrants will be welcomed at a November ceremony in Los Angeles include rocker Pat Benatar, About Time, pop group Eurythmics, and singers Lionel Richie and Carly Simon. About Time as well. Rock Hall inductees chosen via ballot sent to more than 1,000 artists, historians, and people of the music industry. General public also had a say via votes cast online and at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Cleveland. Top 5 acts among public voting submitted as a single fan ballot. Notable nominees who did not make it this year include Beck, Tribe Called Quest, Rage Against the Machine, Katie Bush, Devo, Fela Kuti, and New York Dolls, among others, including Dionne Warwick. What are we doing? How are we going to have Dionne Warwick in there? We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:35. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Tornadoes tore through parts of Oklahoma on Wednesday, causing widespread damage in some areas. Dramatic video of a twister was captured as it struck near the town of Maud on the boundary between Pottawatomie and Seminole counties. Authorities say a tornado hit a marijuana farm there, but did not say if there were injuries. They are assessing the damage in Seminole and say fire and rescue crews were sent there. The structures hit appeared unoccupied at the time. The National Weather Service canceled the tornado warning for Seminole County mid-evening on Wednesday. The KBI late last night announced a homicide investigation in Allen County, Kansas. The Allen County Sheriff's Office says a man was found Tuesday dead in a shop outside of his home in rural La Harpe. That man is identified as 68-year-old Richard Deal. Authorities say preliminary autopsy results indicate Deal was murdered. They are not providing any more information. Well, school is almost over, which means kids will have more free time for activities like riding bikes. And when riding a bike, it's always important to be safe and wear a helmet. So Joplin-based law firm Aaron Sachs and Associates donated bike helmets to kindergarten students at Stapleton Elementary.
So that they can go home, and maybe it would encourage them to be more excited about it and have the opportunity to do something at home and also to be able to do that safely.
Aaron Sachs and Associates say they have distributed around 30,000 helmets over the past nearly 20 years. For the first time in more than a century, condors are flying over the redwood forest in California's northern coast. 2 captive bred birds were released in Redwood National Park on Tuesday. It's part of a breeding project run by the Yurok tribe and Redwood National Park. The goal is to restore the giant vultures into their historic habitat in the Pacific Northwest. Hunting, pollution, and habitat destruction has endangered the species in recent years. Captive breeding programs have helped increase the number of birds to about 500.
Got to the point where almost you can pick a letter in the alphabet, and if it's in southwest Missouri, that road is going to be closed. Here's a look at our current Skywatch storm tracker. With the heavy rain beginning to move back in from the south and out to the west. Here's the aforementioned closings that I was talking about. Those are going to be indicated by the icons, the circular icons with the red and the water on it. And like I said, you can pick a letter. We've got new ones, including Route O, Route M. Now we've got Mo 86 closed in Newton County. Once again, 86 is the newest one in Newton County. There's W. We also have C, C, N, and K that are closed throughout Jasper down in McDonald County. And our 2 largest ones so far are going to be US 160, stretching across the state line into southeast Kansas. And then also to 37 and 97. All of those are closed. Remember, the rain persists all the way through the afternoon and evening hours. We're a long way from being done. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's 4-state hero, Corporal Nathan Hutchins from Carthage, Missouri. Corporal Hutchins served in Okinawa, Thailand, and in Iraq. He served from 2003 to 2007 and earned an expert marksman on both the rifle and pistol. To Corporal Nathan Hutchins, we thank you, today's 4-state hero. Well, this morning we are discussing where you live, and it's a seller's home market right now. People looking to buy a house are paying more, and part of the reason for this is folks want to move from bigger cities to smaller ones. In our story on the KOAM Morning News, we looked at people moving from cities in California to smaller ones like Boise, Idaho, for example, where the lower cost of living is one reason for the move, but experts have also attributed the exodus to the pandemic. Whatever the case, people in this area are faced with the same considerations regardless of where they live, whether it's in the city, the country, the suburbs, or in a town. And that brings us to our question this morning: where do you live? And we gave you those options: city, suburbs, country, and town. And it looks like the winner right now is 44% of our morning show viewers living in the country. You can go online at KOAM.com/Instapoll to vote, or you can weigh in on our Facebook page as well. Fox's The Masked Singer wrapped up the Group C finals with a double unmasking, sending home a reggae dancehall legend and a Grammy-nominated R&B group. Here's Ashley Dvorkin with the latest on the hit competition series.
Not one, not two, but 3 Queen Cobra masks were removed, revealing Grammy-nominated R&B group En Vogue.
We were all winners. Let me just say that, okay? We were all winners. Because we were all there. All of us characters, whoever we were, we were all there and fun. So we were just happy to have been there.
The ladies were not the only ones eliminated. Reggae dancehall icon Shaggy was unmasked as Space Bunny.
All night long. It's just great to just do these songs and really enjoy myself with the audience.
The Grammy Award-winning artist will continue to belt out tunes from other artists. He will be singing some of Frank Sinatra's beloved songs in a reggae style on his new album, Come Fly With Me, due out May 25th.
It's one of the most complicated songbooks to actually learn because there's so many quarter notes and stuff like that. But, I had an amazing vocal coach. His name is Sting. An amazing vocalist, and who taught me how to breathe through it and just to learn the whole repertoire.
En Vogue is working on new music.
We're only one song in, and so we don't know the complete direction, honestly, and we don't know if it's going to be a full album or if it's going to be an EP.
The trio will be hitting the road with New Kids on the Block, Salt and Peppa, and Rick Astley for the Mixtape Tour 2022, starting May 10th.
The name of the tour, Mixtape, is definitely late 80s, early 90s. So we're really excited. We worked with Salt and Peppa many times before. Amazing to work with those girls. But this is going to be our first time working with New Kids on the Block and Rick Astley. So we're really, really excited.
In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
I went and saw New Kids on the Block the last time the mixtape tour came through. Awesome. Highly recommended. En Vogue will be a great addition. We'll be right back with more consumer news after this.
In March, the Federal Reserve made moves to fight inflation. Now the Fed taking an even more aggressive step. Skylar Henry explains.
Consumer prices continue to rise at the fastest rate in decades, and that has the Federal Reserve once again increasing interest rates in an attempt to slow inflation down.
My colleagues and I are acutely aware that high inflation imposes significant hardship, especially on those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation.
Fed Chairman Jerome Powell announced a 0.5 percentage point increase, the biggest boost in 22 years.
I think what Jerome Powell is telling us is that the Fed is in full-on inflation-fighting mode.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says the Fed could continue to raise rates in the coming months to slow down price hikes, but faces a delicate balancing act.
The Fed is trying not to go so fast to increase interest rates by so much so quickly that it would cause the economy to stop in its tracks.
The White House has supported the Fed's effort to lower inflation, and while this strategy is designed to bring prices down, it also makes borrowing money more expensive. Homeowners who have an adjustable rate mortgage could see their rate go up. Auto loans, student loans, and interest on credit cards will also rise slightly.
On the flip side, savers should see a tiny bit more interest being credited in savings accounts, money market accounts.
Schlesinger says it will take time for the latest rate hike to have an effect on the economy and ease the pace of inflation. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Be back and update the Skywatch storm tracker, but first, a look at market prices before the opening bell. Ongoing drought conditions in Utah has lawmakers worried. The Great Salt Lake, one of the largest saltwater lakes in the entire world, rapidly drying up. Ben Winslow has more on what the state plans to do to address this problem.
With the projection that the Great Salt Lake is expected to hit a new historic low this year, political leaders and state officials took a tour here on the Great Salt Lake to see just how bad conditions are. Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson accompanied lawmakers and state officials on a boat tour of the Great Salt Lake.
It's hard to appreciate how low it is when you haven't seen it.
They looked at the declining lake levels and the impact it's had.
I think one of the things that has most impressed me today is just how impactful the Great Salt Lake is to everything that we do in Utah, to our water, to our air quality, to our quality of life. And it's something that we haven't talked enough about.
The lake has dropped 11 feet since it was first measured, and this year it will drop even further to a new historic low.
We believe that the lake has peaked right now at about 4191.0, and we're thinking that it will go down about 2 more feet.
The shrinking lake has been blamed on a number of problems like water diversions for development and a changing climate. It has the potential to harm our snowpack, ecosystem for wildlife, and bring toxic dust storms into populated areas.
I think the legislature will step up.
The Utah State Legislature did pass new water conservation measures and is spending millions to try to get more water into the Great Salt Lake. But lawmakers acknowledge there's a new urgency.
I think so, but I also think it's what is left to do is something that we can handle, right? Like, yes, it's bad, yes, it's bleak, but now we're talking about it.
Environmentalists and state officials don't think it's too late to save the lake.
To conserve, to use less water, but then on a bigger picture to encourage cities and counties, water conservancy districts, agricultural users to think about how they use water and use water more wisely because we need the water to make it down here.
A lot of those laws passed by the legislature will go into effect later this year, and you can expect lawmakers will be planning more legislation.
Now we're back on it here with rain coming in from the south and out to the west. This is also, too, going to try to provide us with another round of some lightning. Now, you haven't picked up a whole lot of strikes, but once again, it was throwing down some good ones right as it departed the Tulsa area and moved into areas of southeast Kansas and southwest Missouri. Now, while it was Barton and Jasper, portions of Dade and Cedar, and even Crawford that bear the brunt overnight. Now, with this rain moving in, we're going to see those accumulation numbers greatly increase throughout southeast Kansas and also, too, into northeast Oklahoma. So we're a long way from being over here, folks. Sporadic rainfall throughout the rest of the day, and the flood warnings and watches lasting all the way into the weekend, especially for our rivers. Be very, very careful. No need to tempt a trip on the river here, even during Mother's Day weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. President Biden warned that the possible overturn of Roe versus Wade is about a lot more than abortion. Chief Justice John Roberts has called for an investigation into the leak of the Supreme Court majority draft opinion from February. It suggests the court's landmark 1973 ruling protecting abortion rights should be overturned. It was first reported by Politico. Russia is stepping up bombardments across Ukraine in efforts to destroy infrastructure, including power and rail lines. Russian troops are trying to cut off incoming weapon supplies to Ukrainian forces. And a possible tornado hit parts of Oklahoma yesterday, causing property damage, leaving some residents without electricity.
Storm damage throughout the 4 states as well, including some trees down. Got some reports coming out of the Joplin area, and of course flooding. That's our major concern. There we are, the 1200 block of Wisconsin Avenue in Joplin. This is from overnight with the high winds. The homeowners that we talked to saying most of this damage must have happened in between about midnight and 3 a.m. is what they're estimating. Now, on top of that, of course, we've got the flooding, multiple road closures, specifically some of the major thoroughfares I want to point out. US 160, just north of Frontenac, headed into Lamar. And then when you get on the east side of Lamar, at 160 closed once again through portions of Dade County. Highways 37 and 97 closed. Route CC down in McDonald County coming out of the Goodman-Anderson area closed as well. And now we look at the radar and find out we are far from over. Rain continues through the afternoon and evening hours. While it does taper off later tonight, it really doesn't end until Friday morning.
All right. Yeah, we're looking forward to an end of this rain as soon as possible. Thanks, Michael. An adorable new addition to the Bronx Zoo in New York City. The zoo is celebrating the birth of its newest marsupial, the Matschie's tree kangaroo. This tiny Joey is the first of its kind to be born at the zoo since 2008. It spent 6 weeks in the womb before crawling into its mother's pouch. The Joey will stay inside that pouch until it's big enough to survive on its own. That's pretty cool. It is an endangered species, too.
Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. We'll be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.